Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Corner. I'm Corner, and why I say that is because I will be at PAX Unplugged this Friday under the moniker Trick Taking Corner, I guess, and I will be teaching how to play Scout and Cat in a Box. Also, I'll be embarrassing myself because I'm not good at public speaking, but if that sounds interesting to you, come on down or just come say hi. I'll be walking around doing who knows what, and I would love to meet you. Maybe play a trick-taking game or two. Who knows? But yeah, so come on down, come say hi. And the game we're covering today, because we just did Tokyo Game Market vlog, which is a long one, and I was just recording, I think I just recorded it, my voice is gone, but the BGG Con vlog, and I thought, double hour-long vlogs is kind of a lot. So let's split the difference. We're going to cover Green Fivura today by Taiki Shinzawa, because it's almost like a meeting of the two. Because I got this in Tokyo Game Market, played it a bit there, and then I played it a ton at BGG Con, so it's like a good mix. And the hook to it is it's called Green Fivura, is because, as you can see there, all those green fives. The deck has, classic suits, it has 4 suits, but on the backs of all the cards, green fives. Because during the trick play, in certain moments, you can play any of your cards face down as a green 5. Wild. And the other kind of hook is, when you win a trick, you take the card that you won it with in front of you, face up, and then the whole goal is you want all the cards in front of you to add up to 25 without going over. And the closest to 25 at the table gets the most points. Super amazing concept. Let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play. The deck in Green Fivura is made up of 4 suits numbered 1 through 13. Kind of. You see, the trick to this game is on the back of every card is a green 5. And in fact, this green 5 here is a green 0. So the green suit is numbered 0 through 13 with the 5 green missing because it's on the backs of all the cards. So here we have the game set up. The leader to the very first trick is whoever has the green 0 in their hand, whoever got dealt the green 0. It was the green Game Boy, so they will lead to the first trick. You don't have to play the green 0, it just means you have to lead to the trick, like maybe they play the 2 orange. So Green Fivura is a must-follow game. Kind of. There's some interesting wrinkles in the gameplay, but for the main point, it is a must-follow game. So when it comes to the scissors here, maybe they play one of their oranges, and when it comes to cabbage, they play one of theirs. And I'll explain kind of the twists on this in a little bit, but for now, let's just do a standard trick. So the winner of the trick is whoever plays the highest of the lead suit, which is this 8 orange. Or if there's trump, which is purple in this game, the highest trump would win. So say if Play-Doh didn't have any oranges and they could play offsuit, maybe they play that 5, they would have won the trick. But rewinding back to what actually happened, the cabbage person won the trick with their 8, and in the game, when you win a trick, you take the card that you won it with, so cabbage person will take it with this 8, they'll put it on top of the other cards, and then they'll put their trick with that 8 on top, face up in front of them. This is important for scoring later. So then the cabbage person will lead to the trick, and again, they can play whatever they want, but the interesting wrinkle, kind of wrinkle number 1 in this game, is you can play any card, especially when you lead, as a green 5 instead of the actual value. So maybe this player here doesn't want to play this huge trump, the strongest card in the game, as the strongest card in the game. So when they have their lead, maybe they flip it and they play a green 5. So the game still follows the normal rules where there's only technically a 1 green 5 allowed per trick. So no one else can do what this cabbage person did for this trick. And I'll explain how other people could possibly do it if they would have led, this. There's ways that other players could, play any card as a green 5, which I'll explain in a bit. But for now, the cabbage person, they played a green 5. So the game is still must follow. So when it comes to the Play-Doh here, they have to play a green card because it's lead green. So maybe they play this green 4, and then when it comes to Game Boy, they play the 0, and then finally the scissors play this 10. So again, highest of the lead suit would have won it. So the scissors take the trick, and you always keep any card played face down as a green 5 face down. You don't reveal that information of what was kind of sloughed in a way. So the scissors player would now lead to the trick. So maybe the scissors player plays just this orange, so then it comes to the cabbage player, maybe they play the 6, and then finally coming to Play-Doh here, if they didn't want to play this 10, because playing this 10 would mean they'd be winning it, you can always, if a green 5 hasn't been played, you can flip a card, if it's your last of that suit, into a green 5. I think the rule kind of is, after you play, if you look into your hand and you were short-suited, then what you just did was valid. So if this was a different trick, and they didn't even have that in their hand, the green Play-Doh player, right here, could have also done that with any other card. Because they don't have any orange, they don't have to follow suit at all. So they could have, if they wanted to, flip this and play that as a green 5 instead of playing it as an 11 trump. Maybe if they didn't want to win the trick, or whatever it may be. So what they did, instead of winning it with this 10 orange, is they flipped it, played green 5. So everyone now knows either they're out of orange or that was their last orange. So coming to the green Game Boy, if they only had one orange, which they do, and they wanted to do that same maneuver, they can't because there's already a green 5 into the trick. And maybe they're like, man, I really didn't want to win it with a 9, you know? Who knows? So they had to play that orange 9 because it is must follow. So then they would lead to the trick. And just as a final example here, let's show off trump. So maybe green Game Boy led with that, and scissors played the 11. So since this player doesn't have any green, they can, play this 8 and then win it because it'd be trump. Again, since they don't have anything, they could, if they wanted to, flip any card and play it as a green 5, but maybe they do want to win this trick. So then coming to this player, they have to follow suit with green, and they can't just flip any card to be green. You have to still follow suit with what your green is. Unless, of course, again, if this was your only green, you could flip it, because it's the whole check your hand after kind of mentality. So I hope that's not as confusing as I probably just made it sound, but essentially they would have to play one of their greens there. Jumping ahead to the end of the hand here, as you can see, players have kept all the cards and the tricks they've won with the card they won it with face up. And so why were they doing this? Well, the scoring is you want to get as close to 25 in the sum of the cards in front of you without going over. So, as you can see around the table, some players did better than others. If you go over 25, you get -1 point. All the players start with 5 points. Here we are at the end of the hand, and as you can see, players have taken all the tricks and they've kept them in front of them with the card they won it with on top. So why are players doing this? Well, for the scoring, the goal is you're trying to have the cards sum up in front of you to 25 without going over. If you go over, you lose points, it's bad. So how it works is the closest to 25, including 25 itself, like the green Game Boy did here, you're going to get 3 points. And anyone else who didn't go over 25 is going to get 2 points. So Game Boy got 25, they'll get 3. These players over here, I think that's 21, and that's 19 or something? They'll just get 2 each. If you go over, you lose a point, and it goes to the player who did the best. So this player right here, green Play-Doh, they will lose 1 point for the whole round, and it's going to go to the Game Boy. So Game Boy's going to get 3 points, plus the point from the Play-Doh. Oof. Also, if you hit 25 exactly, you get a bonus point. So Game Boy gets 5 points, scissors and cabbage get 2, and then green Play-Doh gets -1. You start the game with 5 points, so you have that allowance to go down. So it's kind of negative in a way. Also, multiple players can bust. So say over here, this player actually got, a bajillion points. They would lose a point. Play-Doh would have lost a point, and both of those points would have gone to the player who did the best. So even if this player over here, they got, all the math's all crazy now. So that's 11. So 18. Over here, this person got 18, 20, 21. Oh, it's cabbage now. So cabbage is closest to 25 without going over. Cabbage would have gotten scissors' minus 1 point, and Play-Doh's -1 point. So they would have gotten 3 points for being closest to 25 without going over, plus 2 more for the minus points. So they would have gotten 5 points. They didn't hit 25, so they don't get that bonus. And this player over here would have actually just gotten 2 now with the new calculation. After this, you would shuffle and redeal, and you play 4 games no matter the player count. And whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie, it's whoever got closest to 25 in the last game. If that's tied, then you share the victory. And that's how to play Green Fivura. So that is the Green Fivura by Taiki Shinzawa. And again, if there's any rules changes or discrepancies, I'll put them in a pinned comment down below, because I was taught this at a board game cafe in Japan, and then it was translated to me. And then James and I played it a lot at BGG-Con, and I don't think the rules have been like fully translated. So again, those are kind of, it's almost like Homer's Odyssey. It was just told through me, through the ancestors of trick taking, and I've related it to you in this video. So yeah, I'll have any kind of rules changes in the pinned comment, because I think James Nathan is going to translate the rules soon. So just keep an eye out if you really want to get 100% of the rules right, which I'm sure you do. But anyway, I think most of the game is there, and since it's a Taiki Shinzawa design that I think is stupendous, I'll just say it now, it gets the seal. It should really just be the Taylor's Taiki Top Taiki Award. I feel like I'm a fanboy at this point, where I just love all his designs, and maybe that makes me biased. I don't know. Like if a new album comes out from an artist you like, some people are like, oh, of course you're gonna like it. You're kind of just a stan or a fanboy. That argument always is a little weird to me, because I'm a fan because their work is good and not for any other reason. So of course I'm gonna like other works by them if it's also that same level. So is it that same level? I do think so. I don't think this is my favorite Taiki, but there's something to a Taiki without bidding, because I don't think bidding is my favorite mechanism. I think Segment Tricks is one of my favorite Taikis, just because it has that bid as you go mechanism. Whereas Dwa, which I do love, I think that is one of my favorite Taikis. It has that harsh bidding, right? Or Time Paladrix, or I guess Ghost of Christmas, has those harsh biddings that are less my favorite, and the gameplay has to less my favorite, or not my favorite, and the gameplay itself has to make up for that, right? So like in Dwa or Dois, the gameplay I think is just amazing, and it makes up for the bidding system that I think is definitely harsh and not my favorite. So in this game, I think what it does is it's not quite like bid as you go. It's almost, but it has that kind of feeling, because you're trying to get as close to 25 as you can as you go. And one of the interesting things is, and this didn't hit me until I think the second or third time I played the game, was you can only get up to 25 using the numbers in your hand, and then also the fives on the other side. So the game becomes a bit of a puzzle, where you're looking at your hand and you're realizing, okay, I can only hit 25 through these numbers, and what's the math, right? So is this 9 purple like a guaranteed trick, and then I need to work around how 9 plus other numbers are going to get me to 25. Maybe this 8 green, you know, like, will that win me a trick? So it's cool because you have, it's not bidding, but you're looking at your hand in a certain way that kind of evokes that skill, that muscle of bidding, where you're looking at your hand, you're like, which ones will win tricks? And those numbers, which will add to 25. It's like a mix of evaluating your hands in 2 different ways. And I love that. It's such a cool, I don't want to say like mechanism, but it's such a cool way to look at your hand. It puts rank at the forefront. Like if you have a 13, 12, 11 in your hand, those are important for which number you're going to use to try to add up to 25. In a different game, right? They're all kind of the same. I talked about this in Caddy, another Taiki Shinzawa design, where in that one, subsequent numbers are kind of the same in trick taking, unless, like in Caddy, you pick cards back up in your hand, where, oh, if I put the middle of a subsequent sequence, like if it's 1, 2, 3, if I put the 2 and someone takes it, I can beat it with 3, but if I put the 3, they're going to beat me with my 1 and 2. I hope that made sense. But in this game, since the number matters, because you're trying to hit 25, you're thinking, okay, if I have, you know, the 12 and 13 of trump, do I use the 13 and then I try to make 12 other ways? And then I use the 12 as a flip 5? Or do I use the 12? Because the math just works different ways. So I love it. I love that there's a puzzle to each hand, and all the cards, because they can be 5s, always have like a way out. I'm getting really big into abstract games right now. And I love in an abstract games, oh my gosh. I love in abstract games where the end game isn't solved in a way, but there's always kind of a way out. So games like Amira or Czar, where players almost have a way to finagle out of rough situations. And I love that feeling in Green Fivura, where If you have a ton of high trump, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to win a ton of tricks, and these are high numbers. What am I going to do? In reality, since this game lets you, eschew those cards as green 5s, then it becomes, oh, which of these cards do I want to be green 5s and win? And making sure to do it as early as often so that you have that flexibility. I just love it. That green 5 twist where you can play it face down, but only one green 5 into the trick can happen. It's logical. It makes sense, right? Only one green 5 can happen. It gets rid of the whole like, oh, if there's two green 5s, like does the second one win, the first one win? So it's super clean in terms of the gameplay. And then also it's nice as like a fun blocking maneuver. There are situations where I'm close to 25 and I don't really need to win a trick, but I'll sometimes slough a green 5 just to block other players from sloughing a green 5. There's some really cool blocking moments and ways to mess over your opponents more than in other trick takers, because it's almost like a power that you're taking away from the group. When you play a green 5, you play face down and kind of take that one-time ability from the players who follow. There's an interesting thing in trick-taking games where sometimes they value the hammer or people later in the trick a lot. And this one, because of that power where you can, play the green 5, that values almost players who play early. The green suit, because every card can kind of be into the green suit, the green suit is valued in an interesting way that isn't trump, right? Like a lot of times in trick-taking games, you're like, okay, this suit's trump, so it's stronger, right? It's such a binary focus. It's very two-dimensional. Like, okay, this suit's strong, these suits are not strong. But in this game, it's like, okay, there is a trump suit, and then there's other suits, but then the green suit is such a wacky suit because so many cards can follow, and so many times it's led that it gets kind of like pulled out a lot. I really dig it. There's in hearts, there's kind of a little bit of a vibe of that. When you're passing, you know that like the 2 of clubs is going to be led, so you kind of know, especially if there's no dirt in the first trick in hearts. Sorry, I'm using hearts lingo. Long story short, it's cool when like some suits become a little different. Like there's a hearts variant where the jack of diamonds is worth minus 10 points. So then the diamonds become a little bit of a different suit too. Like you actually want high diamonds because you want to capture the jack of diamonds as opposed to just not wanting hard hearts or whatever it may be. So it's cool. I love when games kind of value different suits in different ways. And this game does that a lot. And then finally, the scoring is so intuitive. Get as close to 25 as possible. There's a game I really like that I think a lot of people really like. It's called Schadenfreude. And it's that idea of busting. It's that idea of taking things as far as you can without going too far and knowing when to hit the brakes. It's another aspect in Voodoo Prince or Marshmallow Test, some of my favorite games, where it gives those players the reins and lets them know when to pull on them. It's it's kind of like my favorite thing in showing new players trick taking is when they know that they're the reason they went off the rails. For the most part, unless they don't know what they're doing. So that is the green Fivura, and I really, really like this game. It might not be people's favorite Shinzawa. I think overall it's pretty smooth. There are some bumps. I think the fact that if you only have one left in the lead suit, the fact that you can lead it face down trips people up for sure. Some of the, like, when can I play face down logic is tough. But once you get over that, I think the scoring's smooth. The gameplay is mostly super smooth. The graphic design's a little interesting since there's no suits. But for the most part, I think this is just like a very, very solid entry in Taiki's line. The guy just is kind of a superstar. But it also just leads to amazing moments. There was a time when I was playing with someone who kind of like Babe Ruthed it. They played the 13 and the 12 of trump, and they won those 2 tricks. And so they were at 25 after 2 tricks. And then it became like a pure avoidance game for them. And it was just such a funny moment at the table where, and they pulled it off too, by the way. They did it. So it's awesome that there's like a bit of open information where everyone's like, oh, this person just doesn't want tricks anymore. Or even when, people don't Babe Ruth it. But they do get like around 20 or, even 21, which is worse. Because at 20 you can, lead face down a 5 and then you'll get that coveted 25. But like when you see people getting super close to 25, then you just know in your mind, like, okay, they might start sloughing a little bit. You can kind of read into what players want to do and where they're at as you go. So anyway, of course, it wins the seal. I said that earlier. But yeah, that was the green Fivura. And again, 5s are just the best number ever. So how can I not love a game covered in 5s? Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Bye!